This is going to sound crazy to a lot of people out there, I know, but I'm actually concerned about Insomniac Games moving forward. And I don't mean about the near immediate future, because as of right now, they're seemingly doing everything right. They are where every developer dreams to be. They are selling tons and tons of copies. They are selling them on the most popular gaming console. These games are eventually coming to PC, it seems. So what more could someone want? I mean, if I were to ask you what games, single games, not franchises, what games have sold more copies above all else for Sony than anything, you'd probably guess The Last of Us or Uncharted or maybe God of War. But looking at sales numbers, 2018 Spider-Man sold 22.12 million copies. God of War 2018 is just behind it with 20.82 million copies. And then behind that, Horizon Zero Dawn, Uncharted 4, The Last of Us, Gran Turismo Sport, Ghost of Tsushima. So yeah, to say that they're doing well is kind of an understatement. And they've been doing so well, in fact, that just 1 year after releasing that Spider-Man game, Sony have finally made the decision to acquire Insomniac Games and fold them into their family of developers. And I say finally because if you're not really sure of Insomniac Games' past, they have a long-standing history of making titles that have been exclusive, at least at one point or another, for Sony. They were responsible for the early Spyro the Dragon games, Ratchet and Clank, the Resistance franchise. They have broken off and they did Sunset Overdrive for Xbox, but they're doing it again for Sony with Spider-Man, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and now, of course, Spider-Man 2. Where my concern comes in is all of this coupled with the fact that when you're taking the Insomniac Games leak into consideration, there's a lot of games that they have on their slate over the next several years, and it's a lot for, I feel, any studio to be able to chew on, right? So looking at their plans, according to the leak, they have a Venom game that they're working on. There's Wolverine. There's at least a couple of X-Men games that they're working on. They're still doing another Ratchet and Clank. Plus, they want to unveil a new IP in the early 2030s. And regardless of how many different teams or how many different people they have working underneath them and how much money they have backing them, I feel like that's a really overly ambitious schedule for any development company to try and do. To me, it just means that there's going to have to be concessions somewhere, right? I already feel like there might be some things in the development cycle that have caused their projects to be a little truncated or to be a little sloppy at launch for one reason or another, right? Obviously, Spider-Man in 2018 was a massive success, as we've already said. But shortly after that, not too long after the fact, Spider-Man Miles Morales came out. It was a cross-generational title, but more importantly, it was also a launch title for the PlayStation 5. Was that always going to come out and be a shorter game, or was that something that, based off the success of Spider-Man in 2018, Sony was like, we need to have something Spider-Man ready for the launch of the PS5. Here's the window where we're estimated to drop that console. What can you do for us? Maybe that's how Miles Morales came about. And as we all know, while it is an amazing game, and some people consider it to be a stronger game than Spider-Man 2018, it's a shorter game. It's a shorter game, and it feels like maybe things were a bit truncated, and maybe they would have done a bit more with it if they had more time and maybe they weren't pressured. And again, I don't really know all the ins and outs. I don't really have the internal director commentary sort of knowledge about everything, about their deals and what's going on behind the scenes, but it just kind of feels like that's how it worked out. And then, of course, they had Spider-Man 2 that they were working on fast and furiously, and it came out, and it's an amazing game, but it is a little shorter than Spider-Man 2018. The gameplay has been improved upon in so many different ways. The side content is seemingly better. Traversal around the city is better. Reflections on all the windows. Just everything about the world looks better. It's just a lot more fun to play. But one thing that game did not excel at is with the story and with the characters. I felt like that sort of had taken a back seat compared to where Spider-Man 2018 was, where I felt like it strongly excelled at a natural, organically paced story, as well as character arcs for everyone that was involved in that story. Spider-Man 2 also had a little bit more in the way of bugs at launch. Nothing that was game-breaking or nothing that was even really causing people to go online and rant and rave and be really upset about it. But still, it was there and it was noticeable. And compared to the last two games that they released, it was honestly a little bit of a surprise to me. So moving forward, I have to wonder if they have this many games in development, are these going to be shorter games all around? Are the story arcs going to hit? Are the character arcs going to hit? Are these games going to prove to be a little bit more buggy and problematic moving forward? These are just things that I obviously can't look into a crystal ball and find the answer to, but these are all the kinds of concerns that I'm talking about. That's funny. I didn't even realize that this could be a thing. Green screen cup. So yeah, anyway, I mean that's really what I'm concerned about, that their own success with Spider-Man is sort of kneecapping them. Sony is obviously like, so that did really well, so we're going to have to follow this Marvel train, and we're going to have to do it tightly, and we're going to have to do it fast, and you're going to be the ones that do it for us, because why not? You know what you're doing apparently. And now they're just churning out Marvel product after Marvel product after Marvel product for Sony. And yes, that's how things in this industry works, right? If something is doing well, they're going to milk that for everything that it's worth until the money well dries up, right? And that's nowhere near going to happen in the Sony space right now, in the gaming space, because people have been really thirsty for quality superhero content. We've had it in the past with the Batman Arkham games, and there really has been nothing to fill that void until Spider-Man 2018 came along. But if we zoom out and look at things in a bigger picture, and we look and analyze at things that are not in just the gaming space, the MCU, the Marvel stuff, the movie stuff, the television stuff, it's not landing with people the way that Disney wants it to. And now it feels like Sony are chasing after the same mistake that Disney has. They're like, it's hot. We have to go after it. We have to exploit this thing, and then we have to take it for all it's worth. And I feel like in the long run, they are setting Insomniac Games up to fail in some capacity. In films, people are losing interest. In the TV shows, people are losing interest. And there's a quote out there that specifies what I'm talking about. It's not that people are like done with superhero stuff. They're just tired of really average or even mediocre superhero stories. They want more things that have a bit more impact when they watch it, a bit more emotional resonance, that actually has something worth saying. People had very well received The Batman. People were big fans of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. People really liked Logan because it was doing something that was a bit more different and had a bit more depth. But the MCU, it just feels like it's spinning its tires, and it doesn't know what to do, and it doesn't know where to go. And in order to kind of keep the ball rolling, they're like, well, what do we do? I don't know. We're just going to go ahead and retroactively make everything canon somehow, because universes, why the heck not? And if they're going to do that with the video gaming space, people are going to get tired of that eventually as well. Plus, I feel like we're losing something with Insomniac Games. While they have chosen to work with Sony time and time and time again over the decades, I feel like they had a bit of autonomy where they're sort of losing that here now. And again, there is concern about the quality of their games moving forward, considering the heavy slate that they have before them. And that's always really disappointing to see in this industry. You see studios like Insomniac time and time again get scooped up by some big publisher like Electronic Arts, and they do the best that they can, and based on the leadership above them from the publisher that acquired them, they have to do things, and they have to work in business tactics, or they have tighter timelines than they would have preferred, and the games come out and they don't land quite as well. And then people, fans, the gamers, get upset with the developers for making a game that was kind of so-so. And then ultimately, like, the publisher gets upset too, and they're like, how come you didn't make a better game? And it's like, well, what are you talking about? You're the ones that wanted us to do this. And I just don't want to see the same thing happen to Insomniac Games, because I love Insomniac Games. I respect Insomniac Games. And with what they've been able to do in this industry and what we know that they're capable of, they should be able to do things at an organic pace so that they don't end up falling victim to this sort of a massive crunch schedule that's going to go for years and years and years to come. And what happens if they're doing all this time and money investing into all this Marvel stuff, and like the sales just start to slow down because several years from now, people are really so tired of it, they don't even really care anymore? In a way, I feel like the continued success of what they're doing with this Marvel verse in the gaming sphere is going to be somewhat directly correlated to how people perceive whatever Disney has up their sleeves for the MCU moving forward. Because obviously they're going to be working in Fox properties, the X-Men stuff, that sort of thing. And obviously that's something that they also have on their agenda moving forward at Insomniac Games. So I'm not going to sit here and just, spin yarn after yarn after yarn, because I feel like I've put out everything there that I needed to say about this, but I don't want to see the products falter. I don't want to see these games come out in a lesser state than we know that Insomniac's capable of. I don't want to see stories or characters fall by the wayside just because they have deadlines to meet, So until that time comes where we have a new piece of news to talk about this, until then, take care of yourselves, everyone.